Good afternoon, everyone. Joshua, good to see you. Dave, Doug Weeks from New York, and upstate New York's beautiful, Doug. I like it better than the city. It's good to have you online. We're going to get started. Other people are logging in. This is an interesting topic. I've watched the entire business community shift from driving towards a single purchase with upsells and cross-sells to some sort of continuity, that is an annuity, annuity, that is a constant stream of subscription revenue pouring in. Everything is being sold this way, and sometimes it's not even a good fit. But the whole world is changing, and we predicted this many years ago and did extensive research around subscription revenue. We're going to draw from 26 marketing experiments that we've run in the past and help you learn how to boost that recurring revenue stream. And I want to get right away by pointing out, for those of you that have been with us in the previous episodes, we completed a Facebook test last week. We're getting ready to start a new one today. We're going to talk to you about the new Facebook test and get your input as we select keywords. So stay tuned for that piece. I will also remind you that we revealed the results of the last test in the previous episode. You may want to watch that episode. But there are the two treatments, the control and the treatment itself, A and B. And we discovered that the image produced more than the video. Now, I can't explain to you why. You can follow that in the last episode, but there's more to come on this. Really fascinating, and we're learning more and more about this. I might also point that after we finished the broadcast, more book orders came in, making A an even stronger win over B. So when is it right to use video in your Facebook ad as opposed to an image? Look at the last episode and we'll help you with that. But today, we want to move to the beginning of this new topic regarding subscription. And for those of you that are not familiar with MECLABS, we draw this from running over 20,000 plus path tests and treatments. The organization has invested $138 million in research. We built the first lab to use the internet as a behavioral research laboratory and pioneered much of the terminology and best practices in optimization. And so with all that, we're going to draw from our library, pulling 26 recurring revenue related, i.e. subscription related experiments together, and draw lessons from that that would apply to any one of you that may be implementing a subscription path or some sort of recurring revenue with your software in a SaaS platform or any other combination where you're trying to capture that recurring revenue stream. With that in mind, one more announcement as we begin. I'm going to be speaking again this year at the AB Summit. This is a video conference summit. You'll be able to log in directly from your computer. It's on June 12th, 2019. If you need more details, check with us. We'll help you so you can get involved and you can participate. That being said, I'd like to show you two different web pages. Take a look and tell me which one of these you think will produce the most recurring revenue. So as you're joining us, hello, Caden, and good to have you, and Robert, and Stephen, and others as you're coming in. Take a look at this and vote. So the first one on the left, we'll call that A. The one on the right, we'll call that B. And tell me which one of these do you think will produce the most? All right? I'm watching for your votes as they come in. As you're doing that, take a look. You'll notice there's some blur on here. It's because we're anonymizing the brand, and that way we can share more information with you. So Don, Richard, Myron, Sean, Dr. Jerry, it looks like Paleo, all of you have chosen A. Does anybody think it's B? Robert chose B. All right, Caden chose B, and Doug chose B. Now, in many organizations, this is a debate around a table, and the person who's most dominant typically wins. Maybe it's the highest paid person, or maybe it's just the most vociferous or obnoxious person. But here, we let the customer tell us through a series of experiments, and I see more votes coming in. It's good to see Suleiman back, and Sue, and John Hales. I don't know you, John. I don't recognize you, but you may have been on these before, but thanks for joining us. In the meantime, I'm going to take you to the result of this experiment, but not yet. First, we're going to sort of ask ourselves the primary question driving our time together today, and that is, how do we take 30 minutes invest them, the overall is about 50 minutes, but with the time we have left, and then we have to talk about the next experiment, how do we take this 30-minute section right here and help you amplify the results of your current recurring revenue stream? You may be thinking about launching a revenue stream and you're trying to figure out how to get it right. We've seen a number of critical dangers, mistakes that are made, and they become very apparent when you start to look at hundreds or thousands of tests and experiments. We're drawing today from this URL. You want to download this file. It's the subscription swipe file. What that means is we're showing you the before and after with key learnings from an entire series of tests. It doesn't cost any money. It's not a lead gen mechanism. It's just the content that I'm using to teach today, and you'll be better served if you get a copy of that and you can use it. Plus, you can compare these later as you're designing your pages and look for ideas that will help you do a better job. So download the swipe file and let me take you right into the 3 biggest dangers, the 3 most common failures that we so often see. The first one is a failure to enforce continuity through the purchase process. Now, that can be confusing, but continuity is drawn from the word continuous. And you need to think about this as a conversation with a key message that must be reinforced over and over again in the purchase process. Now, I'm coming to you today from our studio in Florida. And we've got a great team, and we're here on a campus, and we've spent a lot of time building out the internal capabilities here. But when we can, we're surfing or we're fishing, and I just want to use the fishing analogy for just a moment. One of the most important ways for you to learn is to get the right image in your mind. And so let me use the fishing analogy to help reinforce the problem associated with this point. I'm right close to the beach. In fact, our lab began more than 20-some, almost 30 years ago. In fact, we formalized in 1990, and we were right on the beach and surfing and fishing. And we had rods, in rod holders, and we had surfboards and racks and cameras on the water, and when the waves were good, we disappeared. Now, when you're fishing on the beach and you're casting out with that line, there's a couple of key things you want to do. One is you want to make sure you have the right hook. Every marketer knows about hooks. That's where the analogy comes from. You've got to hook the fish. And obviously, you need the right bait. I don't like the word bait in marketing because I don't like the way it makes the prospect feel, the way we talk about them. But it's good for the sake of this analogy. You need the right hook, the right bait. And I'll tell you something about our beach here in North Florida. There's a little channel that runs just off the shoreline. You can tell the tourists because they cast out as far as they can, way past the channel. But those who know what they're doing will cast in that little channel, and it's just a few feet off the shore depending on the tide. Now, the good fish are running in that channel because it's deeper and they're moving up and feeding on the bait fish. So someone who knows what they're doing here will just barely toss that in. I was in Fernandina Beach, not where we're at, a little bit north of here, when I watched an elderly lady, probably in her late 60s, early 70s, fishing, and there's a whole group of tourists on the beach, and she would look to the left, look to the right, and she would only cast when no one was paying attention. Then she'd just toss it barely in. She had a bucket and a cooler beside her, and I watched her put whiting. Whiting were biting that day. And she probably put 30 or 40 whiting in that bucket. And all along the beach, people were missing it. Had no idea why she was catching so many fish, but she was in the right channel. Now, most of us know this. Marketer, you might be thinking, I want to learn about subscriptions. Why are you talking to me about fishing? You'll see in the next moment. In fact, when I take you to the example coming right here, experiment number 5, this is not 5 as in numbered in our outline, but 5 from the swipe file that you've downloaded. This is number 5, so you can coordinate with that or look at it later. I'm going to show you why this analogy plays close, has a close semblance to the problem and the solution we're going to look at right here in Test Protocol 1651. Here's the point about the fishing and that elderly lady who amazed me with her consistency and her cunning. In the end, when you finally hook that fish, what you do not do is call it a victory, lay the pole down in the sand, and then pop a beer and drink it and wait for the fish to swim in. The truth is, to land a fish, if you've not been experienced in fishing, you have to keep tension on the line or the fish can spit the hook out. So you've got to keep the rod tip high, except when they jump, and keep the tension just right. or you lose the fish. Now, that problem of not keeping the line with proper tension, not reeling in the fish, is a problem that marketers are experiencing constantly, and there's absolutely no reason for it. It's so easy to fix. So let's look at an example. This is a huge U.S. brand. I won't say their name, but everyone on this call would know who they are. And this is part of their subscription process, and this is the control. And the original page used a template, a CMS structure, and it did very little to reinforce and drive the power of the brand. Brand is the aggregate experience of the value proposition. We mess this up. Many agencies don't understand this. It is the aggregate experience of the value proposition. Brand is an impression on the mind. The value proposition seeks to achieve a conclusion in the mind. But in this case, they weren't using the power of the brand or the value proposition very well. Now, I want you to look at their entire checkout process, because you are on this site, you know the site that you visited, you know the name of the brand for the site that you visited, but you're being asked now to pay for a digital subscription offering, and there are 4 steps in the checkout process. How would you drive a significant increase for this group? Now, many of you might go immediately to our teaching on friction and anxiety. And let's just review that for a second and talk about it in conjunction with this. I've said to you before that you've got to understand that all of your optimization efforts should be viewed as a fulcrum. On one side is perceived value, on the other side is perceived cost. We've taught a conversion heuristic that many of you are already familiar with. C equals 4M plus 3V plus 2I minus F minus 2A. Now, all over the world are using this heuristic. We extracted it from running these 20,000 plus experiments or treatment tests. And I want to just point out that friction, let's go here, friction and anxiety are negative factors, and value incentive are positive factors. And in fact, you can take those two and weight this fulcrum. On the perceived cost side, you have anxiety and you have friction. It's not the price of the offering. And then you have on the perceived value side, the clarity or the force of the value proposition and incentive. When that fulcrum tips to the left and perceived value outweighs perceived cost, conversion goes up. Many of you on this call or in this YouTube live broadcast know that because we've taught it. But with that in mind, you might look at this control with its 4 steps and think, well, let's just reduce friction or anxiety. Or let's just get much clearer about the value proposition. All of those are good ideas. But in our first experiment, we did something much simpler. And I'll tell you what it is. We took the brand and made certain that the power of the brand, along with the trust that it has endeared over time, passing something we call trust trials. And we made sure that every step of the process had the brand. Now, the brand is grayed out to protect the organization, and it allows us to tell you more data about it. But here's the point. The brand was on every page just because we're drawing on the impression the brand has already made on the mind, and we're using that sort of impact point across this flow. We didn't take out steps. We didn't reduce friction overtly. We didn't reduce anxiety overtly. We didn't add much to the force of the value proposition overtly. And yet, on another level, we did all of that. You say, well, how? Well, indirectly, we accomplished it by using the power of the brand to overcome anxiety, the power of the brand to make the friction worth it, the power of the brand to reinforce the clarity of the value proposition or the force of the value proposition. And what was the result? Just putting that tiny picture on every page produced a 40% increase. This is an example of continuity. Now, it is a dead simple example. And I want to take you to, you might say, a more complex execution of it in the next case study. All of these are from this swipe file, and we've got 3 points to cover, so I've got to go fast. I've got to drive as much value in as short a period of time as I can so that you're not here getting a pre-sale for something else, which this is not, or an entertaining time, which I hope this is not only, let's say that, and instead, let's learn something that can change our results. So here we go with experiment number 20, drawn from the swipe file. Test protocol 1321, big brand, well-known publication. Now you're going to look at something. You can see that we've blurred it. We've even blurred what's in the dog's mouth, because if we showed you that, you'd recognize the brand. It's a global brand. The current offer page has a design that's proven successful in previous tests. We know it's a good page, but we wondered something. And by the way, wondering, i.e. curiosity, is one of the most important elements in the marketer's toolbox. Adequacy is the enemy of excellence. And when you are just satisfied, you don't let your mind wander down these paths. But it is this wandering that leads not to an idea. I'm not interested in an idea. I'm interested in a hypothesis that I can test. But the idea germinates into a hypothesis if we follow proper methodology. And so with that in mind, we wondered if the other marketing efforts, there were so many, the direct response in your, literally in your mailbox as opposed to in your email inbox, all these other components might somehow be interfering with our top or our best or our highest performing potential for this already performing well page. What did we do? Well, we looked at the direct response piece that was being sent all over the region, and you'll notice a picture. That picture is just a photograph in this piece, but we wondered if continuity between the direct response piece and what they were getting in their email and on the landing page might produce. So notice now that it's the same page, but this time it has a different photograph. And then there's one more piece. If you go back, I'll go backwards. Do you see that little handwritten piece with a little arrow? I think it says your best deal. So we took that piece and we tied that in. You see it right here? Your best deal. So now, suddenly there's tighter continuity between what they're receiving in their mailbox and what they're receiving in their inbox or on their landing page. What is the result? There they are, control and treatment, side by side. You can see virtually everything else is identical. So what do you think the impact might be? Dave, you've been on here a bunch. Don, Margaret, Robert, somebody tell me, what do you think the difference, and don't take a wild number, like seriously look at it and say, okay, all we changed is that little increase of continuity. So what's reasonable to expect in results? A 10%, 20% increase, more, 50% increase? Joshua says 70. Thank you for being brave. And first, Joshua, you get, Robert, now I got 110, 20, 15. Elsa says 40. All right, keep those coming. I'll show you the results. Here they are. 124% cumulative increase in conversion. 124%. Did you hear that? Now, there's a little note. This is again from the swipe file, experiment 20. Take a look at that little note. After, it's at the bottom of what you need to understand. Notice that one sentence. After the direct mail sends concluded, the results reverted back to a non-significant or an insignificant difference. What is that? Think of the power of that. Continuity is something marketers can do easily, and yet we so often just lay that fishing pole down and hope the fish is going to swim in the shore after we did all that work to get the right bait, the right hook, and get it in the right channel. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to show you one more really cool example, and we're going to shift into another point. Test protocol 2137. I think this is a whole series. Am I right, Paul? So this is a whole series. This is a different brand, another very big, well-known, they've made movies about this brand. But I want you to look at, there's version A. We've seen that headline. We've talked about it in the past, but look at this from a different standpoint now. Here's version B. Now we got A and we've got B. Which one do you think is going to win? Somebody take a look at both these. Tell me, is it A or B? Give us a quick vote. I know there's a short delay from when I speak and when you hear it because of YouTube. Fogel says B. Sturgill says A. That's Dave and Don. And Robert says A. And I see a B, an A. Myron says A. Parker says B. Let's keep those votes coming in. Elsa says A. Marketers were not all in agreement. That's good. That's why we test. Once we hit the testing zone, we have to. And Robert says, you already demonstrated this one. Robert, you're sort of right. I talked about the headline before, but not what I'm going to show you today. This is different. And so as you look at these, I see the votes coming in. I'm just going to share with you what happened. There's A, there's B. Here's the difference, 137%. 137% for A. So A is the optimized version. B was the control. If you voted for A, we're going to let you continue to watch this broadcast for free. Everybody that voted for B, you'll have to send in $100. They're laughing in the studio, and I'm just kidding. Listen to me, just so you know, most of us wouldn't know which one until we ran the experiment, but let's unpack it, because there's something we learned there that has to be applied. So remember, this is a series. This first piece was an email, and the email has to be pushed forward, and you can see there's a bunch of test protocols here, to the landing page. And we want to get the right messaging, all right? Did I get that right, Paul, on that? All right. So now look at the save 50%, okay? Look at the two pieces, and the trick is to take the message of the email and get it to the landing page. Everybody following that? By doing just that, we see a 29% increase. Now, that's not enough. Now we got to get them in the cart. Here's the original cart. But now we take, here's the original version, and then you can see a version A and a version B. And once again, we try to get the messaging clear in the balance of the cart. And we see a 30% increase. Now, look at the original, look at the optimized, and what you're seeing is a series of experiments, but the collective impact, the aggregate compounding impact of getting the same message all the way through from the email to the landing page to the cart results in a 273% cumulative increase in purchases. Now, that is powerful for us to think about. So marketer, if you're on this call right now, you might say, well, I don't even have recurring revenue yet. I'm going to think about that, but I still have e-commerce. I still have lead gen. This point applies to all of those. And if you're doing a subscription path, make certain that the essence of the value is communicated all the way through. If you have that point, I can talk to you about something completely new now. This is a common problem. This is the second danger. This is a risk that we see over and over again. It's failure design for the sequence of thought. Now, anybody that's been on this broadcast with me for a while or been through our training understands that you don't optimize web pages. We optimize the sequence of thought. People don't buy from websites. People buy from people. But what does that look like in practice? And how does that apply in the subscription process? To answer that question, let's take you to experiment 11 and very big brand from the past, Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, I could take a long time communicating issues about this brand. The headline is weak. I think you've learned that from the work we've done in the past. If not, you should check out the YouTube live broadcast on headlines. The members' benefits, which are critical and essential to the thought sequence. I'd like to point this out. Where are they at? They're off to the side, and they look like they're supporting something else. They look like they're maybe for a secondary offer. They're not in the central eye path. So the page is not flowing in a vertical path towards an inevitable conclusion. This is critical in subscription sell. The images on the left and the bottom are not communicating anything, nor are they placed in the right location, or are they even adding to the page. They should be either communicating the value proposition or drawing people's eyes through the page in the proper order, and that would only matter if the page was laid out in the vertical sequence of thought. Now, I could keep going, but look at the design page. Those of you that have attended the headline piece, do you see the difference in that headline? Get unlimited access to all 32 volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica during your free trial. And then look at the subheadline. Always use the subheadline to ease them in. Goal of the headline is two things. You should remember this. You already know this. What is it? Somebody tell me, what's the first goal of the headline? You've been on these before. Let me see who gets an A on today's paper. What's the first goal of the headline? It is to capture what? I'm watching, but I'm going to keep going. Attention. Yes, Joshua. Yes. And overall, the headline's got to get you into the conversation, but it has two micro-uses, to capture attention, and the second one is to convert it to interest. All right, now, in the treatment, we'll see how that headline is working. Look at what the image is doing. Good, Don. Excellent, Don. And Doug. Take a look here, though. I'm sort of going back and forth between the comments and my slides. Do you see how the image communicates value? Free access to all 32 volumes. Don't be afraid to use a caption with an image. And the picture itself is designed to impact the mind. Notice how there's a clear sequence of thought. The bullet points are providing evidentials that underscore the power of the value proposition. And notice how we've brought the purchase piece off a second page and brought it right into the main page. Now, I could tell you the story. I do teach this in our landing page optimization course. And I go into much more depth there. The most they hoped for was a 20% improvement. And I could talk about the story. These were great people. But it just didn't seem possible after 2 years of experimentation to drive the numbers up any higher. This first test, there's other changes, but ultimately by getting this sequence of thought flowing properly, and there's way more here, but you can see them in the swipe file. I've got to keep going. 103% increase in conversion. Now, this means for every single person that's tuned in here, if you're trying to learn something that you can really use, you probably should have 2 questions right now written down on a piece of paper or right in front of you in your notes. The first question is this: am I communicating value through every single step of my flow, of my process, of my funnel, all the way through? That's a question that you can easily answer by going back and looking at each piece. The second question you should be asking yourself right now, if you're really trying to drive results, and that is this: have I laid this out in a flowing sequence of thought? Is it vertical, not 2 or 3 evenly weighted columns? Does it communicate with the main content in the primary column? Is the page unified behind a single objective and each of these thoughts driving towards it in the order they occur in the mind? Those are all variations of that second question, but they're important. All right, let's keep going. One more example of this, and I'm going to fly through this example because I want to get you to the third point and talk about the next experiment. But here we go, test protocol 1633. This is just number 12 pulled out of the swipe file. And you can see, again, this is a national brand and a global brand, frankly. And what you're looking at is their attempt to communicate clearly, but it's all horizontal. The sequence of thought doesn't flow in a natural way, and it's much more difficult to understand. When you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points on the one, and then a different number of bullet points on the middle column, and a different number on the third, and you have 6 buttons to respond to, it's really hard to absorb the page in any sort of flow. So, what do? Well, these are all problems that we point out, but we shift and design this page where, number 1, you have a strong headline, strong subheadline, the key points are communicated in a proper order, and all of that confusion is simplified with a comparison chart that allows you to see side by side how the value compares. That's a dramatic difference. There's the examples, with pieces, and I've clicked through because, again, you can see this in the swipe file, study it in more detail. But all of that is working to provide that flowing sequence of thought. There's the control and there's the treatment. And let me just see here. Dave asked about why we use just in the headline. The headline could be improved and was improved through future and further tests. I don't know if send is the best way to open because it sounds like work, but these are people wanting to send press releases. And the just part was, and I'm just answering the question that just came in through YouTube Live. It's the value of being on these live broadcasts as opposed to watching the replays. You can interact, ask questions. But to your point, just was meant to say that you have to, just a minor commitment. It's not hard. Just preview your news release in minutes. It's easy. So that's where the word just came from. We did build stronger headlines in the future, but let's look at what the impact of this was. Well, it doubled business. Now listen to me. That's not click-through from the homepage. That is an increase in subscriptions. I got it, Paul. If you don't know, in the studio, it's YouTube Live. I just dropped my remote, which is actually a lethal weapon too. I can point a laser button and wipe out employees that aren't performing well, and I almost shot Paul with it, but I decided to hold back. Guys, you know, you see big numbers on here so much that I'm afraid you miss the impact. That business doubled its subscriptions. Would you like to double your business? I mean, it doubled subscriptions without any investment other than in the optimization work to communicate more clearly with a flowing sequence of thought and an easy way to absorb the value. So then, Robert, we're laughing in here too. All right. Failure to display pricing at the optimal moment. We're on to the third danger. Let's learn this. Let's see it. Pricing is, how many of you find some confusion around pricing? What to charge? We're releasing the new version of our courses. I don't know if you know this, but we've redone all of our key courses in the LMS. The main three, value prop, web site optimization, and testing have all been redone. And they're twice as long. And we did them with a graduate program. We charged, it sounds like I'm selling them. I guess I am, but I don't have an offer for you today or a landing page or anything for you. But we just redid them all. We're going to be releasing them next week. And we just had a pricing conversation this morning. At the university level, we charge $2,300 for one of these courses. But our other courses, in the ones that we're in before, were $695. So the question was, do we charge $995? Do we charge the university level? And I think we're actually going to charge less. We're still working it through. But many conversations like that are going on all over the world right now as people try to figure out, how do I get the right price, but also when do I present the price? And so, and we'll keep you posted when we release these courses. Probably next week, they'll all be available in the LMS. And they're, it's cool stuff. So, but I want to go back to this price question as it relates to this third point. Here it is. Here's the test protocol. When should you reveal the price? Now, this is a big television network, this brand. And what you're looking at is a special subscription offer related to a fantasy football product. I can tell you that much. And the original page tells you the value proposition as best they can. And then we decide to test something different about the price. There's the price, as you can see highlighted. All right. Dave, let us know how that course was. I knew when those guys started, and I've watched their things. And if you got value there, let me know. And I want to learn from everyone. And yes, I think we will tie things into LinkedIn. We're working on that right now. But let's go here now. The original version of the page emphasized the value, and then it went to the price right here. So we decided to do something a little bit differently. Now listen, because this is when it gets strange. This is one of the most, this is a bigger surprise. For this test, we limited to changing only the banner section of the page, and our language was very constrained. But in the first treatment, we shifted the focus of the message from the app itself to the value of the free trial. Now, wait a second. That's a process level value proposition as opposed to a product level value proposition. So we began to talk about the free trial itself, because that's what we have to do, is get people to say yes. We didn't have two objectives, to sell the product and the free trial. We had one primary objective, sell the free trial first. We also de-emphasized the price from where it was before in the iPath. It's there, and it's plain, and it's honest, and it's clear, but it's not emphasized. Now you might say, why? Why do you think that is, team? You know, if you think about this, why do you think we did? All right, you keep thinking? Let me help you with that. Because we want to make certain that before we present the price, see, price is a narrative. It's an unfolding narrative. Seth, our friend Seth Godin says that price is a story, and he's right. It's an unfolding narrative. We tested the effect of de-emphasizing the price in the iPath because you needed to be further along in the thought sequence with a deeper appreciation for the value before we tried to ask you or have you grapple with the net value. That is, what is it really worth when I take the value minus the price? Now remember, in their mind, they're weighing perceived value against perceived costs. If you give them those two components at the wrong time, they may have, let's say, in their mind, remember, the word is perceived. It's not true value, it's perceived. So let me take a different colored pen and make my point. If they have decided that the perceived value is 5 and you present a perceived cost and they decide that it's 7, what is 5 minus 7? It's minus 2, and conversion drops. So in a subscription offer, it's necessary to especially build the value and then present the price. Now, don't be tricky, don't hold back, and the last thing you want to do is give them a negative surprise with the price. That's even worse. But in this case, we looked at it with treatment this way, then we ran another treatment. And in this treatment too, we shifted the focus of the copy and image to emphasize the value of the company as opposed to the free trial. See, these are hypotheses. We didn't try stuff on one page, try something on another. We didn't do what often is the problem with multivariable testing, change 1,000 things in random order and see which ones work. There's no hypothesis. There's no single key learning from this. Now we are very deliberately testing a different type of value proposition. And the most radical change is that we completely remove price from this page altogether. Now think about that. No price yet. You say, well, is that fair? Is that tricking people? No, we're not charging them anything before they understand the price. We're just determining when in the unfolding narrative should we bring up this mental calculation that's going to naturally occur. If we bring it up before they've assigned, let's suppose we talked more about the value and they realize it's not a 5. Why? The value is a 9. Well, then 9 minus 7 is plus 2, and suddenly conversion is going up. Can you see how the hypothesis was built? Can you see the logic behind that? With that in mind, this slide shows you, let's go back here. It shows you precisely, see, week 2, when we reveal the price. There's the control, all right, and treatment 1 and treatment 2. And we emphasize the price at the beginning of the process in treatment 1. We revealed but de-emphasized the price on the first page in treatment 1. Sorry, the control emphasized the price at the beginning. Treatment 1 emphasized the price on the first page. And when you see me looking over here, I have a big monitor over here. I have 3 monitors in front of me, and so sometimes when I need to read the details, this one's closer than this giant one that's behind the cameras. And so I'm looking to read carefully. But in treatment 2, we did not reveal the price until the second week of the free trial. What happened? Which one do you think produced? I need a good vote on this. Control, 1 or 2. Type in a C, a 1, or a 2. A C, a 1, or a 2. So price on the beginning and emphasized, price de-emphasized, and on the web page, price until after the second week of the free trial. 1, 2, or 3. Okay, I see 1 from Josh, 2 from Dave, 1 from George, 2 from Don. I see another 2 coming in. Myron has a 1. Another 1 is after that. While you're looking, I'll show you the results. Boom. So which one won? Treatment 2. The price was not even revealed until they'd experienced the value in the free trial. Now that can backfire. Again, no negative surprises, no bait and switch, no treating people differently than the way you want to be treated, but understanding that you're actually doing them a disservice if you reveal the price before they understand the value. You're not helping them. They may then make a snap judgment based on their perception of value that keeps them from ever truly experiencing the value of your offer, the true value that they would have, the resulting customer experience they would win if they bought from you. And so, a key failure in subscription paths is not understanding how to connect price into the mental journey at just the right place. You understand? All right. Is this helpful? We're almost done. I'm getting ready to shift to the experiments, but are you learning from this? Is it valuable for you? Give me some feedback so I can watch and adjust in my last few minutes to give you as much value as I can. Oh yeah, Dave said something. Thanks, Dave, for saying that. Don't forget to like. If you're liking this, would you actually hit the like button and share this with a friend? It has a lot of impact on how many views we get in the future, and we're testing all that right now. But be sure and like that. And also, on the bottom of the slides are the other social media pieces. Like, join me on Instagram. I'm posting things on there much more regularly than on YouTube Live, and you can get real-time updates and even personal stuff there. And of course, LinkedIn. And again, on the bottom of most of the slides, it tells you where you can do that. Paul, it should be on every slide in the future. But just type my name in, @Flint McGlaughlin will find me. You can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. All right, here's the final test I'm going to look at with you. It's a cool site. These guys were doing over 1 billion visits a month. A month, all right? People post art here. And you can see in the control, do you see the price? There's a place there where we talk about the price, $4.95 billed every month, all right? Now, watch what happens. Now we've changed in the treatment, and the value's there, and there's an upgraded premium access, but we haven't pushed the price just yet. So there's the control, and there's the treatment. Now we drop the price into the subsequent step once they upgrade, but we don't do it yet until they see more of the value that comes with premium. What happens? Just that little shift, nothing else, drives a 45% increase. All of this, again, is about getting that price dialed in. Price is an unfolding narrative, and you need to know exactly when in the story it makes sense to insert the price. All three of those key principles apply to subscription paths, but often there's applications to your lead gen or your e-commerce. What I want to talk to you about in the last few moments together is the next test. I'm going to ask you for help. So we ran a Facebook test. It actually produced better than the 36% I told you. The control, because 36% was what we had at the time that we aired the last broadcast. More book orders came in. Unbelievable for us. We realized that with a Facebook campaign, we could profitably sell the book, but we're still not doing that. If those of you that have seen The Marketer's Philosopher, we're not releasing it to newsstands until next year, and so only people who find the web page and ask for it are getting it. There is no marketing other than we did this little test to learn, but that's going to come into play next year probably when we really unlaunch the Facebook campaigns, the global campaigns, and it'll be in every bookstore. We've been through 5 printings just by word of mouth while we're waiting to do the full release next year, and this was a little test. Now, we're not going to test the book anymore. We literally had to turn it off because they were selling out. We sold out of our 5th printing. We're down to 1 copy as of today, more coming next week. And so we had to stop. What I want to do now is show you a new test that's really interesting. And what we're going to try to do is we have the mobile micro course. That's 5 sessions, and it doesn't cost for this course. You can look it up on our site. If you want it, we'll send you, ask Paul for it, we'll send it to you right now. But it's 5 sessions where we teach about optimizing in the mobile environment. They're 15-minute micro classes, real tight, real short, real specific. What we want to do is test a Facebook audience, 2 types of audience. One is interest-based and the other is a lookalike audience. Now, an interest-based audience comes to the ad through keywords, whereas a lookalike audience is sampled from an audience that you have. They study that audience, sample them, and give you more people like them. In the last test, we used a lookalike audience. In this test, we want to see which one will perform more, the interest-based audience or the lookalike audience. Now, if you're doing Facebook, this could be very helpful for you, but we need keywords to test in the interest-based list. And we're asking you right now to give us some ideas, all right? Give us some ideas, i.e., I need search terms or keywords that we can use to link to for the interest-based side of this test. So it's a micro course in mobile conversion. Give me some keywords. I'm watching them as they come in right now. We're going to take your ideas, incorporate them into the test, run the campaign, and in the next YouTube live session, we're going to share with you which one worked better for us, interest-based or lookalike. So any ideas for keywords? I'm looking for words like the obvious, like mobile conversion. Okay, there we go. We got one. Dave, mobile conversion is a good keyword. We'll put it down. Somebody else, give us another word we can test with. Mobile CX. All right, we've got it down. I see Don with mobile conversion. Some of you are typing at the same time. Good. Give me some more words. I'm watching as they come in. All right. CRO for mobile. Thanks, Joshua. Mobile optimization. That's George. Tell you what, keep those coming in. Mobile ads, somebody said. Keep these coming in, even at the conclusion. Keep firing them in. And if you have good ideas, email us. We read every email. I write. Emails you get from me are from me. I might have somebody help me, but I write them and I read them because I either want an authentic community or I just don't want one at all. And so training at MECLABS.com, that's a good place you can send other ideas to. Facebook CRO, Joshua gave us another word. How to increase mobile conversion, Don gave us a longer phrase. Keep those coming in, and then next week we'll let you know which one of these approaches produces the most results. In the meantime, today we've talked about 3 dangers and how to avoid those dangers when it comes to your subscription path. Also, we have made available the swipe file. It's free. It's just there for you to get. Download that thing and look at all those tests and experiments and use them to drive greater results. In the meantime, we're grateful to have you in our community. If you like this, please hit the like and share and promote this any way that you can, because we're trying to build a community like you and people that we can not just teach, but we can learn from. So together we can all grow. Thanks for joining us today.